Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show, we're talking about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Elementary, a very peculiar case. It's like layers upon layers, because first of all, it starts off with a murder with a lightning gun, essentially. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Then that kind of turns out to be like, basically they immediately catch the killer, because basically it's kind of like a guy was trying to make his own lightning gun. It was kind of like an espionage between two different groups type of thing. And basically to slow down the Inspector Rohan, the dude tried to use it. He didn't know it was going to kill him. It just meant to stun him. Which is so fascinating too, just about the whole aspect of like how the lightning situation works. It's like, well, obviously lightning really wouldn't strike him here. And if it did, it wouldn't start like at his, what was it, like the lower part of his body, essentially. It's kind of where it actually hit him. It'd be kind of like from the top down. But obviously with all those tall buildings, it wouldn't be a potential spot for him, because they would be the ones that kind of end up attracting the lightning. It's also not what I expected it to look like. It's like a big cannon. I was kind of expecting something a lot smaller and portable. That's when it popped up. I was like, oh, obviously it's got to be a different one. It's got to be something small and portable. Oh no, it's exactly that. Oh, okay, never mind. But that was just a smaller part, because this all dealt with plutonium, because it was all about trying to find an alternative way of, like, you know, powering everything. But the plutonium was stolen from that dude, and now it's like, oh, that plutonium might have been used for a bomb. But it turns out it's actually, well, because then it turns out like a white supremacist dude named Hayden had it, and then they tracked down the dude who's the leader of that white supremacist group, and it's like, nah, like they wouldn't build a dirty bomb, because they're like, yeah, this whole white supremacist thing is like, we just kind of play into it a little bit. It's kind of a scam. The only thing we care about is money. And it's like, you know, that wouldn't do us any good. And then it's like, okay, there's these European guys, and it all turns out to be a heist. The whole getting the bomb dirty bomb was just an excuse. It was just to kind of make people a little afraid. It would kind of stir up enough trouble to kind of get people away from them and stuff like that, so they can perform the heist. But it didn't work out in their favor. So it's like I said, the case had layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of things. And it turns out the dude behind this, Agent Kohler, played a part in this, because his new girlfriend, one of her cousins, was one of the dudes behind this. So, which is interesting, because he's the one that kind of let the plutonium kind of get slipped through the system, just so that things can play out like this. So once again, it's always that thing where you can never be too careful with this type of situation, because it's like, oh, he's helpful the entire case. Obviously, he's being extremely helpful so that he can keep an eye on the operation and make sure that they don't figure things out. Sadly, he didn't know who he was dealing with, but also just that thing, because usually it's like, oh, the criminal is usually the person that's not in the episode a lot. But I guess it's like, because you never know with those type of things. It might be the person that's in it too much, too little. Like I said, he was there the entire investigation, so I was like, but then at the same time I was like, well, the fact is that he just kind of picked certain times just to leave. He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this and that. It's like, oh, get preparations, man. I'm like, I don't know, you're up to something, aren't you? It's like, I don't know, I didn't give him much thought. But when he was kind of like, oh, get ready, oh, you know, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, when he was like, oh, we gotta get ready for evacuations and stuff like that, I'm like, you're up to something, aren't you? I was like, no, I didn't give it much thought. I should have kept digging into that thought, because it turns out he was behind it and everything. So, like I said, it's just crazy to think that everything, like I said, it was one crime that led to other crimes. I mean, technically it was more than one crime, because like the plutonium was kind of being so illegally gained, so it's kind of like multiple crimes, but it's like one crime that led to another crime that was literally a cover-up for another crime. It's interesting. But a big part of this episode, obviously, like, you had the whole situation with Sherlock still struggling with everything, because obviously, like, the lights start messing with his eyes and stuff like that. And for him, he wanted to work on a case rather than do the puzzles that Joan was kind of suggesting that he should do. Which I do love that at the end of it, he's doing it, and then Joan's kind of like, I got 3 more ready. If you like that one, you really love the other ones I got ready for you. So I thought that's kind of neat. Because Sherlock is realizing that, hey, okay, like, this whole situation, he should attack it from multiple perspectives. Yeah, these puzzles seem juvenile and stupid. You know, it's like, oh, his time would be better working on a case. But at the very least, this will, you know, it's like, don't kind of shun any opportunity to kind of help speed this process up, and also help him kind of keep his mind intact. I did also like the fact is that, like, Joan was like, found something, and he's like, oh, you found something, you spotted something. She's like, how did you know? He was like, your breathing changed. I was like, oh, God, just, it always baffles me, just the stuff that you know, just the little details. It just, like, incredible the way Sherlock's mind works. Not, I mean, not just in that specific instance. I mean, that just shows you how sharp its hearing is to be able to pick up the fact is that like her breathing changed the moment she found something. That was kind of interesting. While he was also like laying down with God, what is it? God, not blindfold. What are those things? I'm blinking on the name. They cover your eyes when you're sleeping and an ice pack on top of his head. That was kind of interesting. But also a big focus of this episode I thought was kind of a nice thing is for Joan. In this episode, her and Lynn's dad died. And obviously, like, you know, it kind of leaves Watson kind of like conflicted because it's like she never really got to know her dad much. He was sick and he just kind of left when she was younger. Obviously, he went off, got better for a little while and had a new family that included Lynn's. So she got to know him a lot better, like what he was kind of, you know, on his good days and stuff like that. So going through some of his stuff, Lynn finds a letter from him, which she tries to hide it, but even Joan admits, like, oh yeah, you can tell it bothered Lynn because it's like nothing there said anything about her. It said about Joan, even though, you know, it's like it's kind of that situation of like, but I was supposed, you know, I'm the daughter you spent a lot of time with. You never really went to Joan and stuff like that. You went to me, but there's letters addressed to Joan. Nothing else mentioned her name, so it just kind of made her feel bad. But Joan obviously didn't want to really deal with the letter because for her, it's like she'd been down that route before. So it just kind of left her conflicted because she was like, you know, the last time she got a letter from her dad, it was just kind of gibberish. And she didn't want to kind of get her hopes up thinking like, oh, maybe this is something. Because it's also interesting. I like Sherlock's perspective because it's like, yeah, obviously you wanted to keep the letter. You wanted the letter to be intact because all you did was throw it away. You could easily dispose of it any other way. If you didn't really want there to be, you wanted the option to ever come back to it if you wanted it. And also the fact of the matter is like, he's picked up these little details that's like, oh, obviously he was on one of his good days when he wrote the letter. But then it's like, but you already knew that, which is like, yeah, she did because she's very good. And it's like, as a detective, you have to take in all the evidence because it's like, this is a mystery that you've had your entire life. The whole situation around your dad, like, you know, maybe it'll prove exactly what you've known, or maybe you'll kind of see your dad in a different light, but you won't know unless you take that leap. And you just see Joan kind of having her hesitation about it, not taking the letter. And obviously the whole bomb situation obviously made her go, okay, that needs to be something that kind of takes place later. She ends up finally reading it. Obviously she doesn't say anything to Sherlock, but he kind of pieces it together, kind of like, you read it, didn't you? But it turns out that the letter was her dad being like, hey, you have a sister out there, which is like, they already found each other anyway. Obviously he's a little too late on that, but it was kind of like, you know, it was in, you know, whenever he wrote that, he knew he wasn't in the best condition and he wanted them to kind of find each other. It is like, oh, you know, so that kind of makes things better with Lynn because it's like, he had her in mind. Like that was the biggest focus for them to come together, to be family, to know each other existed. But luckily they just already found each other. But I guess it just kind of just adds more layers to it, makes their bond even stronger. So it was kind of a lovely element to the episode. I thought that was kind of nice, like giving that kind of something, because it's interesting because while Joan was kind of dealing with her own situation, like you could tell, like she was kind of focusing more on Sherlock this episode, just because she wouldn't have to think about or deal with her situation. Because I guess, and maybe in her mind, it's like, well, this is a more, because it's like, my dad abandoned me all those years ago. Why should I kind of like, you know, waste time on him? And it's like, here's my friend and partner Sherlock kind of going through his situation, so I need to be focused more on him than anything. But also, it's just obviously kind of acted as a distraction too from it. So I feel like that's the reason why she was most dedicated. That's the pessimist in me. There's also the side that's like, well, no, because obviously she's very concerned about his condition. Because I mean, like I said, just being a good friend and being like, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, is everything still okay? Constantly checking in with him. I'm sure like Sherlock appreciates, but I'm sure eventually it's going to get to the point like, Watson, you can calm down. I'm good. I'm not some invalid. I can take, you know. So, but I'm sure he's not going to like push away any help that she's willing to kind of throw his way in under these circumstances, you know. So I thought that was kind of a nice touch. I also appreciate it in this episode, the situation where it's like, oh yeah, we found the van and everything. It's like, you want to go check it out? And Belle's kind of like, you go right ahead. I want to possibly have kids in the future. I do also love that even Watson kind of stayed back. She didn't say anything, but she kind of stayed back, and Charles was like, okay. I guess it should have been kind of interesting too, because Kohler kind of went up there too. Like, I don't know. I mean, he knows more about the situation. I mean, maybe that's why he was kind of more okay with everything, because he's like, I know what's going on. I mean, to be fair, it kind of fit in his job title and everything, but still. Also, that this Rohan, the victim, his wife, learning that, like, oh yeah, she was actually the one having an affair, but she turned it back on him just to kind of hide the fact that she was having an affair because he was suspicious and everything. I was like, oh, that's kind of sad. Also love the fact of the matter is her being like, no, even if I wanted to murder my husband, is like, you didn't even have to say all that. She's like, no, we're not even close to, like, the type of, like, stuff she studies is about the universe. She wouldn't be able to kind of apply that into a lightning gun. I was like, did you really need to phrase it like that? That looks kind of suspicious as hell. You'd be like, if I really, like, wanted to murder my husband, obviously I wouldn't be able to under these circumstances. I don't have the know-how to make this lightning gun to make that happen. So that's kind of interesting. Also, I kind of don't know on this a lot, but I figured I might as well kind of remark on it this particular episode because it happens. Is the fact is they went out of their way to explain everything to Kohler. I mean, obviously it's them explaining it to the audience, but I like it. It's like, we know you're the bad guys, but we're going to explain everything to you because in all honesty, we've already got you, like, your ticket pulled, because the fact of the matter is they already arrested his girlfriend and everything, and she already kind of admitted, like, everything kind of about it. So I don't know, it's just kind of interesting to me. It's just one of those things of like, oh, you're the bad guy. Yeah, we actually know exactly how you did it. It's just because, like, it's not like we just started with explaining like what you did. It's like, no, we explain what went down, and you're kind of like, oh wow, okay, that's how, oh wow, you figured all that out. That's crazy. And then it's like, oh yeah, we also figured out your side of things too. Wait, what? So I don't know, it's just kind of something interesting that was kind of floating back in my head. It happens from time to time, but I feel like this is the first time I've ever really kind of remarked on it. So I just felt like adding that in there too. But that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good